Stand by. Let me go to Roland Martin, who's the host and managing editor for NewsOne Now on the TV1 network. And Heidi Preswell is with us as well, and Aaron Blake as well. Roland, you got that look on your face that says you're not entirely convinced.
Well, first of all, I will hope that with the arrival of General Kelly, you now have adults who are now running the country as opposed to the children that we have witnessed over the last 6 months. And I would hope that General Kelly is somehow can counsel the biggest child in the White House, this President Donald Trump. Why am I saying that? You look at the comments that he has made. You look at his vulgar language and how he is basically not acted presidential. You need someone who can say, look, respect this office. You are to act like the president. Scaramucci was ridiculous. The communications directors are not supposed to be the story. And he thought he was basically a mini-me Donald Trump. And he needed to go because it was embarrassing what took place last week. And you would hope, again, for the country. It does not matter if you are Republican or Democrat, liberal or conservative. We are to respect the presidency. I would hope the president will learn from a General Kelly as to how he should behave as President of the United States.
Aaron Blake, what are your thoughts on how this has all developed in the last hour or so?
Well, I think it's going to be really tempting for people to label this some kind of a pivot. The fact that John Kelly has kind of asserted himself as supposed to be more of a disciplinarian now seems to have gotten rid of a particularly kind of loose gun character in the White House. I think it's worth keeping this all in the context of what happened last week and the week before. There were 7 days between when President Trump hired Anthony Scaramucci and then hired John Kelly. Those are completely polar opposite hires. One was a kind of brash, all over the place guy who we saw exactly what happened last week. And by the way, we saw when that was happening, the president appeared to be very much on board with what Scaramucci was doing. And then just a day or two later, we see him hire Kelly and apparently move in the direction of discipline. We don't know if this is what he's going to be doing, if he's actually going to listen to Kelly going forward from now on. But he seems to be kind of all over the map with his actions in the past couple weeks here.
Heidi, so I guess that Aaron has well articulated the possibilities here, the range of possibilities, that this is a pivot and suddenly this White House could start to work like a slightly better machine. But the White House has been in chaos, so most people could probably make it work a little better than it's working right now. What's your sense? Should we be thinking about this as a pivot? Are we just being cockeyed optimists? Or was this absolutely necessary because of the mess that Scaramucci managed to make in 10 days?
I think we in the media should all learn from our own history in covering this president that we should not declare a pivot until we see a pattern. Aaron is right. This is one day and one decision. And while we know Kelly is saying that he doesn't want to see this much melodrama in the White House, he wants less Game of Thrones, more structure, we also know from the reporting and from Scaramucci's own words that the president himself enjoyed that display of dysfunction on CNN between Scaramucci and Priebus. So to what extent can Kelly rein in this president? Andy, I heard you mention a lot of people about, the structure of the White House and all the positive things that Kelly can bring, but you didn't mention the president, and I think that is the most important person that he needs to impose discipline on. We'll see to what extent the president is receptive to that, because Kelly can't be there for every single call and judgment. He can't be at his bedside in the East Room in the morning when he's sending off some of those most harmful tweets. Right,
and it's not, Roland, like Scaramucci was a holdover in the White House. It was President Trump's decision to bring Scaramucci in. He definitely countenanced or stood by as Scaramucci did what he did last week, which struck most people as strange, the profanity-laced interview and the denials that it was on the record and all that kind of stuff. So to that degree, Kelly may be able to manage lots of people, but does it matter that he manages anybody if he can't manage the president?
And that is the most important thing. And so, again, you would hope that he is going to convey to President Trump that you need to act like the president. Because if you look at the Wall Street Journal editorial, they said the problem wasn't Reince Priebus. The problem was President Trump. His actions, his behavior, his lack of leadership. You know, he has these rallies where he wants to be, he wants people to love him, and he soaks it all up, but he says nothing. He wasn't out there actually campaigning, working hard for health care. He's not out there working hard when it comes to jobs. And so this is all about an actual agenda for this country. I've made no bones how I'm not at all impressed by what this president has done. But again, we want to respect the person there, but he has to actually earn the respect, and he hasn't done so thus far. And so we'll see what happens again with Kelly. And I doubt very seriously, if you are a retired general like Kelly, you want to be associated with madness. And so if the president continues, Kelly might say, you know what, I don't need this.
Right. So, Aaron, to that point, when you speak to people about General Kelly, he's highly regarded. He's unflappable. He is a military man. What kind of conversation led to him taking this job, and to what does John Kelly know that the rest of us don't seem to know about the ability to get that White House in order? Because, again, we've started to use this terminology of a White House in chaos, but it's all done on the president's watch.
Right. I think that, you know, while this may not be the kind of pivot that people want it to be or think it might be, Kelly is a unique leader when it comes to the president's campaigns, when it comes to his White House. We've so far seen a lot of people who were yes men to some degree or another, yes men and yes women. Corey Lewandowski didn't have a whole lot of experience, was very much let Trump be Trump. Late in the campaign, Kellyanne Conway was very much kind of a Trump style of a surrogate and campaign manager. And then Reince Priebus wasn't supposed to have a very heavy hand when it came to the actions within the White House. It is going to be really interesting to see what somebody who comes into this job with somewhat of a mandate, with more of a disciplinarian attitude is going to have. And apparently he was promised many concessions when he took this job, and he was very skeptical about it. So, you know, I, for one, am skeptical that the president is going to suddenly let this guy come in and totally run the shop. But we haven't really seen anybody even try to do that at this point. So we'll see how it goes.
So, Heidi, Corey Lewandowski did give this interview, and it was kind of interesting when he said anybody who thinks they're going to change the president isn't going to do so. Let Trump be Trump, which is, by the way, the exact words that Scaramucci used. So people who have remained in Donald Trump's circle over time have learned that either they believe that or that's the language you have to use. From what you know of General John Kelly, how does he reconcile that with his need for order and discipline? To what Andy Card just said, the chief of staff is a staffer.
I can't imagine, like Aaron said, that Kelly didn't come into this with a number of promises and preconditions that he would have wide latitude. And so this will be a honeymoon trial period for Kelly to see if he, in fact, does have that authority that he's been promised. But I have to go back and point out that everything, and last week is the perfect example, that happened from the riffing at the Boy Scouts to the transgender policy that was seemingly announced on Twitter without any consultation, that Kelly can immediately overnight have that kind of impact on Donald Trump, where he doesn't have those spontaneous transgressions, the kind that have proven so harmful, and that Kelly can overrule him on some of the more harmful decisions that have been made. For example, the firing of James Comey is going to take quite a while for us to see if that is actually the case.
Let's go back to the White House. Oh, I'm sorry, we're going to go there in a moment. We were supposed to have a briefing at 3:45 with Sarah Huckabee Sanders. A number of us were wondering earlier today why the briefing was set for 3:45. That is substantially later than it normally is. It's normally at the end of the 1 o'clock Eastern hour or into the 2 o'clock Eastern hour. Now, it may have been because this story was developing about Anthony Scaramucci, and the White House knows, obviously, it's going to get a lot of questions about this. You can see a live picture there. Reporters are getting ready to talk to their respective channels or networks about it, but no Sarah Huckabee Sanders yet. This is now 7 or 8 minutes late. They have been working on getting their story together about what they're going to do. Roland Martin, if this does signal some sort of a change, and there are a lot of things that have happened in the last week, in addition to the ones that we've just been talking about, that would signal a need for a change in the White House, including the failure of the signature legislation that President Trump wanted to put forward, and that is health care. Obviously, with health care not going going forward. It imperils tax reform because there were going to be a lot of savings in health care that could be carried over. What should the White House be, what message should it be sending out now? Well,
first and foremost, what Chief of Staff Kelly has to do is he has to repair the damage that Trump has inflicted on Republicans. When you have the Interior Secretary going after Senator Murkowski, threatening the state of Alaska, that's a problem. When you have, of course, Trump going after Heller of Nevada, that's a problem. There are fractured relationships there. Again, Reince Priebus was very close with House Speaker Paul Ryan. And so Kelly is going to have to really repair those relationships, because if you have Republicans right now who are in the House and Senate saying, why in the world should I put my neck out for this guy if he's going to turn around and attack me and attack my state and literally threaten my job? And so he has to manage so many things now. Andy Card can speak to this. When you're the chief of staff, this is not just a sole job. You're dealing with the RNC. You're dealing with House, the Senate, personal relationships. You got to repair a relationship with Senator John McCain, Senator Lindsey Graham. You got to deal with donors. It's a whole lot of stuff you have to do. And the president, frankly, has ticked off a lot of Republicans, and we haven't even gotten to the fact he has done nothing to reach out to Democrats.